So Jay, this is kind of one of the two pod sections of your backyard. You kind of have one over here and one over there.
Yeah, I've got it sectioned up into little spots due to the microclimate. So this is the place that I like to hang out. This is the tropical area. So this is where I spend most of my time, is back in this area.
Yeah.
I built this giant shade cloth over the whole backyard. It was the first thing I did when I moved in. I did it for myself so I could work, but it ended up being a huge benefit for the plants that I put back here.
Because you do a lot of welding.
I do a lot of welding. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Welding versus gardening, which one do you do more of lately?
Way more gardening.
Really?
Way more gardening than welding, yes.
Cool.
Yes.
And just so that the folks can tell, everywhere that we're walking, even the pathways you have, these pathways, these common areas,
yes,
it still feels like mulched forest, worm castings, compost under our feet.
Yes, and it's actually pretty thick out here.
Like all of this down here. I'm sure you can just plant anything you wanted right here and it would thrive and grow great.
Yes, basically, yeah. So I keep the mulch pretty heavy out here. I usually keep it about a foot, and it'll break down. The mulch will break down.
Like this was what's on the top, and then if you dig down even a few inches, you can see how it probably changes.
Yeah, it turns into this. This will be your secondary layer.
So can you show the secondary layer so we can show the difference?
Yeah, so it turns from this and eventually breaks down to this one. And then if we can get some soil out of the tree well.
So then we kind of got the before, the during, and the after.
Yes. So this is how you want it to eventually end up being. So this is mostly worm castings. Yeah. I mean, that's almost 100% worm castings.
Nice worm in there too.
Yep, there's one in there now.
My mom used to always tell me that her opinion of what was healthy soil was, can you make a mud ball, like a snowball out of it, and will it hold its shape?
Oh, okay.
So you're passing my mom's test right now.
Nice, nice.
I don't want to hurt that worm. Put that guy back
in. Yeah, so it's all about the structure of the soil, because if your soil doesn't have good structure, then it's not going to hold water and it's not going to hold nutrients, and it's not going to allow it to breathe. If it can't breathe, then they smother and die, and that's the biggest problem down here, is the root rot that we get from smothered roots. So when people use pure clay soil, the pure native soil,
just no oxygen's getting in there.
Yeah, they're not realizing that there's just no oxygen getting to the root system at all whatsoever. It has nothing to do with nutrients, even though the nutrients aren't being absorbed well because the soil's so alkaline, and that clay is just horribly alkaline. So you need to add some organics, because the organics are going to add some acidity back to the soil, and it's going to start to temper it a little bit more towards neutral, which is where a lot of plants like to be. They like to be in that neutral range, instead of having so much of that alkalinity on them. It's all about fixing the soil, because if you fix the soil, now you can water more, and if you can water more, now you're controlling the growth rate of the plant. So you were just given the keys to the vehicle, so now you are driving it. Do you want a giant mango? Water it more. If you want it smaller, don't water it as much. That's literally how I control the size of these plants now.
Nice. So, I mean, I could come back here 10 times and we could find new stuff you're growing. So why don't you take us through really quick and show us what you got?
Definitely. So we'll just kind of start overhead here. We've got grapes just everywhere. I have to cut these back every single year.
And of course they're going a little dormant now because it's January 1st.
Now a lot of the plants back here, they're a little bit slower growing because they're tropicals, but eventually they will form the canopy that is back here. And then I'm going to put my pond back in. I tore my pond out so that I could put in...
I was noticing that.
I wanted to put in quite a few more plants around that pond that will take advantage of that humidity.
Okay.
So I had to take the pond out so I could work, and then eventually I'm going to put the pond back in with rain misters above. So they'll blow off in the middle of the summer. It'll rain down here. It'll rain out here. You'll have the pond that's giving the additional moisture. So now you've got the humidity up. So now you can grow things like the avocados or whatnot without thinking. You just put them wherever you want them in the landscape, and that's where they'll exist. We're just too dry here. We're very, very dry.
So why garden in a place like this? Why not go somewhere like Southern California or Hawaii?
Well, mainly the expense. I mean, Hawaii is very expensive to live there. California is also, and becoming more so,
super overpopulated and expensive.
Yeah, and so a lot of those people are actually coming here now, you know. And like I said, we can grow everything here. We can grow citrus and we can grow date palms. You know what I mean? So we've got the full gamut now of the country's stock. So yeah, peaches.
And apparently you can grow figs 365 days out of the year.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. So yeah, so what do we have back here? We have a lot of mango trees. So I'm a real big person on mango.
And you're getting them to produce mangoes, fruits.
Yes, they're all fruiting. In fact,
what time of the year usually do the fruits, are they ripe to eat?
They give you a very large range. So they give you a range from about...
Depending on the variety.
Depending on the variety. So they'll give you fruit from May all the way till December. So I ate my last mango last year on Christmas.
Okay.
So they'll extend a very large range. And in fact, a lot of the mangoes the ones in the front have mangoes on them now.
So if we do a follow-up this summer, we can come back here when you got some varieties fruiting.
Yeah, mango season is wonderful around here because of all the blooms and the smell and the mangoes. So every tree that is around here that is a mango should produce this spring. So yeah, if we do another tour, we're going to have mangoes. In fact, we're getting a lot of flowers now. We're getting a lot of mango flowers now that are way out of season.
Yeah. And if I can go here without disturbing your trees here, we can see how, I don't know if the camera can get in there. They're just now coming out right there.
Yeah, in January, so they're a little bit off. They're a little bit off. So we're going to have an extended range of harvest on mangoes this year too.
Well, take us through it.
So yeah,
where are we going to go?
Sure. Ice cream bean.
Yep, we got the ice cream bean and next to us Sapote, I think.
Yep, this is a white Sapote, and he's also starting to bloom here. So he's also another fall fruit.
Yep,
so
I can see their flowers right there.
So you want to pay attention to the fall fruits because the fall fruits are missing. There's a big window there. So like the star fruits, the Sapotes, things like that are fruiting now, that's awesome. You want those in there because otherwise you'll have a big gap there. This is called a peach cobbler variety.
Now that means it'll be a mango, but it will have a peachy taste to it.
Yes, exactly. It'll have that peach flavor. So July fruit on this one. And they tend to be about a month past what Florida says that what they are. So this is July fruit, so it'll probably be August fruit.
For Phoenix area.
For the Phoenix area. So I usually bump it up a month of what the tag says.
You've been growing here, you said, for about 5 years now.
Yeah, about 5 years.
So you've turned this in from a dirt lot to this food forest in about 5 years?
Yes, yes.
And you're still adding to it, like this big hole behind you, if the camera can pick that up.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, are you preparing this for another tree? Or
yes,
what?
I'm preparing this for another tree, and that's about the size that I dig for them, if not bigger, for any plant. Even a 5-gallon tree, 25-gallon tree. You want a very large hole because you're trying to get that first year's root growth.
When did you dig this hole?
Probably 2 days ago.
And in 2 days, it's been exposed, and it's still super wet in there.
Yes, yeah.
It's not even dried out yet.
Yeah, no, the whole land is wet and stays pretty wet. So I water a lot, and I'm watering every day now, even in the wintertime. I want to see push the limits on these plants, you know, and see the negative effects, the positive effects on them. So I like to experiment over here. So this is an experimental yard. I like to try really weird fruits, and I like to kind of push them to the limit to see how well they'll stretch. That way, when I go and plant them at other people's yards and landscapes, I'll know what they're actually capable of.
Or if they're capable of growing here at all.
Or if they're capable at all. Yep. Yep. See, behind you here, I got a grumachama. This is another type of tropical cherry. Star fruit, they're kind of everywhere. There's another star fruit here. Red Malaysian guava, coconut cream mango. Another mango, large peach.
Yeah, so let me ask you 2 questions about these 2 things. So this one star fruit and this carambola is in a different location than the other one we saw earlier in this series. And this one's not loaded with fruits right now. So is it because they're different varieties of the same variety?
It's because he's too small.
Okay.
So see, we're looking at size. So what I was talking about back there was the size I want them to be before I start to send them into fruit. So I'll take a lot of their fruit off if they're not the size I want them to be.
You want to get the trunk to a certain maturity before you let it really go for
1 inch. 1 inch is like the magic spot. If you can get the trunk to 1 inch, then you can start to let them really start to heavy produce.
Still half an inch or 3/4.
Yeah, I mean, he's still, you can see it down here, he's still probably 3/4 of an inch. He doesn't have much of a canopy, and he doesn't have a lot of structural branches. So I know that these can't hold that kind of weight. You know, so this is his first year. I'll let him grow the size I want.
Letting him establish some roots.
Letting him establish roots. And then next year, I will change the compost on this one, and I'll send him into fruiting just like this one over here.
But then look at this peach tree back here. Can the camera come back over here and show this peach tree? Jake, why does this peach tree look insane? It's so big. It's so aggressive, and it's so crazy. I want to say the growth is extraordinary on this tree.
This is a good one. So this is about the growth rate that you should be expecting on your plants. And so this is a typical peach. And
when you bought this peach, what did you pay for it?
I paid $24. It was
Was it a bare root?
It was Lowe's. It was a Lowe's little $24 peach tree.
Probably a Florida Prince or something?
It was Florida Prince.
Okay.
Yep. I stuck it back here.
And this is 5 years later.
5 years later, and it actually got this big in 3 years. It gained most of its size in the first 3 years.
And this is not rootstock that's come off. This is the actual Florida Prince graft that's grown up this big.
Yes, yeah. So he's gotten quite some size to him.
And then they probably fruit in like April or something, yeah?
Yeah, you'll get the majority of the fruit in May before the heat comes on.
Right.
So for instance, this year I had to cut him back quite a bit because he broke so many branches. This one we picked 3,000 peaches off of this year.
Wow.
And the people that came to the spring tour, they got to see this one and they got to try all the peaches on this one.
Why did you count that many peaches? 3,000 counted.
I just wanted to see. That's what I do. I just count them until I get sick of, and then I just let them all go. So the majority of them actually went to the ground. So if you go look around,
yeah, you can find pits all over.
There's peach pits just everywhere back here. So you got to share. You got to let some of it go back to the tree.
And even if you were eating the peaches, you definitely want to take those pits and throw it back to the tree.
Yes, throw everything back to the tree. Let the birds get some. Let them eat some. Let the worms get some. Let some of those vitamins and minerals, your peach making materials, go back to the peach tree so that he can make them again for you next year. If you keep robbing these trees and you keep treating them like an item or like they're your property, then they're not going to respond well to that, and they're not going to produce for you because they realize that you're just taking. And you're just, don't be a taker. Like, you've got to give back in the form of its fruit or its leaves. You'll notice I just let all of its leaves fall. I don't ever rake these up. These are its foods for next year that we're getting rid of. Everybody cleans all this up.
Yeah.
You know, and this is
it takes it away.
And takes it away.
It's like stripping its clothes off its body and leaving it naked in the middle of the city.
Yes, and so when people treat them like that, they treat them like an orchard tree. Well, then they don't live that. They're not long-lived, and they're not disease-free, and they start to get sick, and they start to get neglected. And yeah, they'll pump out fruit heavy for 10 years, and then that's it. They kind of decline, and then the orchard just rip them out of there or whatnot, get rid of them, just put something else back in, just you know, as a piece of property, basically.
So it sounds like you have this empathy for trees, or this spiritual connection to the trees. Maybe you're even conversing with your trees.
Well, I mean, I like to think that, and I like to think a lot of people do when they're out in their yard walking amongst them. I mean, you feel a little bit of that pressure relief and that stress relief when you go out into the yard. I mean, you feel it because you're giving them love and they're giving you a little bit of that love back, you know? I mean, I don't want to get too hippie about it, but
no, go for it. This is what this channel is all about.
That's totally how I feel, you know? I feel that we have a really strong connection with these plants.
Plus, you're eating the tree.
Yes, you're eating. So why would you not pay attention to that thing? Why wouldn't you water it well? And why wouldn't you feed it well? Because you know it's going to eventually end up back in you. People take food, especially, as a byproduct here. Yeah, I may feed or I may not. You know, and it's like, that's not the way things work if you want, you know, solid production with good flavored food, you know?
But the sign of the modern age is food is not something that nourishes us and relaxes us and makes us better humans. It's something to be bought for 99 cents in a drive-through, shoved in our mouth, and then keep working for the man.
Yes, exactly. And it's like,
and that's not the way we should be living.
No, because you're not taking any time for yourself at all when you're doing that. You're just treating yourself, you're just using and abusing yourself, you know? Let's just throw in whatever works to make me not hungry so I can go finish the job and work the 9 to 5 for everybody all day. And it's like, you got to step back and start to think a little bit about your life and what makes you happy and what makes your family happy. And it's being in connection with a little bit of the earth and a little bit of the food, what you put into your body, and not just think about it as just a filler to get me through the day because, you know, because I'm hungry. Take some time for yourself. Like, nobody ever takes time for themselves. That's why there's so many fast food, you know, places, things like that. Even the sit-down restaurants aren't that great anymore, you know, because they just don't care. They're just feeding someone.
That's why I always like to find those family-run sit-down places that are locally run.
Yeah, Mom's Cooking, there's nothing else like that because she's putting a little bit of love into that meal and a little bit of her bacteria and her essence and everything into that meal. When you eat that meal, that's why it tastes so much better when Mom makes it.
And a locally run, family-owned restaurant, the food always tastes a little bit different depending on the season, depending on who was making it that day.
Right.
Which is how it should be.
Exactly. So the main lesson there is slow down. Like, everybody just needs to slow down. Everybody's too instant gratification on this stuff, and you got to realize that plants definitely are not that way. They're not going to give you instant gratification. They're a system, and you're going to be putting these in, and you're going to be loving these plants over a long period of time, especially us backyard growers. So that's how we differ a little bit from the orchardists, in that we want these things to live a very, very long time and be productive over a very long span, instead of just giving them a whole bunch of fertilizer and getting the production out of them and just using
and making the money back.
Oh, and not to mention all those fertilizers now go into the water runoff and have poisoned the Gulf Coast, and like a lot of the areas, there's dead zones in the oceans from all those fertilizers now running into the oceans because they use too much. Yeah. You know, so if you just use a natural system like this,
you're replenishing the ground.
You're replenishing
the tree and you, because 3,000 peaches.
Yes.
You now ate those peaches and you're part tree.
Yes.
The pits and the leaves and the mulch and the soil goes back into the tree. It's part tree.
Yes.
We're kind of both one and the same.
Yes, so just slow down and stop taking so much and stop stripping everything. Stop stripping the land of all of its nutrients. Stop stripping all the trees. Let some of it go back, you know, let the birds have some. People always get so worried about that, you know, and it's like, if you have production like this, then you're not worried about the peaches eating 500, or the birds can eat 500 peaches, and you'll never have even noticed it, you know, because you've got 3,000 more to eat.
Right.
You know, so it's a matter of getting that production, keeping everything happy. You have to share with nature too. You know, you can't be greedy. It's your part. You're just one in the system. You're just one little piece. You know, everything else is acting around you.
Yeah, absolutely.